In this segment of what I'm reading, I'll be talking about White Kids, Growing Up with Privilege in a Racially Divided America by Margaret Hagerman. Hagerman is a white woman. She's a sociologist in her mid to late 20s, and she was interested in how children of affluent parents make sense of race and racism. I was interested in picking up this book because a friend of mine on Facebook mentioned that they were reading it, and it had been on my list, but it got bumped up when she mentioned it. And I think it resonates with the idea of raising equity, right? So my definition of raising equity is that we need to be thinking about how kids understand, analyze, and transform systems of oppression, and that we need to be intentional about that. And we need to raise all kids. We need to raise equity with all kids, but especially with white kids. So this book was interesting to me because if we can understand how children of affluent white parents understand and make meaning of race, they're likely to be in positions of power and positions to change systems when they grow up. So to understand how they developmentally begin to make meaning is important. In this book, Hagerman gives us the data from one of her research studies. She follows 30 families for over a year, interviewing the kids and the parents, and she does things like takes the kids to activities, or she'll go to their performances. Really tries to be that fly on the wall so that she can catch the comments that are made, the questions that are asked, and the conversations, sometimes spontaneous, sometimes not, that happen with kids. She chooses to focus on families with middle schoolers because middle school is an important time developmentally in how kids begin to make meaning and understand themselves and their place in society. So what she found is maybe a little bit of what we might expect, but it's always good to have data, and it's really fun to have qualitative data. So the interview data from the kids and the parents to back up what we might think is happening. So one of the things she found is that kids who are at hyper-segregated schools, like really homogenous, very white schools, they didn't think that race or racism were a problem. Like, they didn't think racism happened anymore. They talked about it being in the past when some woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, sat down on a bus. Like, they didn't have the information to even accurately understand the historical pieces of race and racism, and they certainly didn't think it was around now. One of the schools in particular had put a ban on the word racist because the kids were using it here and there, and they put it in the same category as slurs against LGBTQ folks. So it was like this word that like you do not say. And I thought that was intriguing because it's like, well, what do you do if someone actually is being racist? But in their minds, we're post-racial, race is not important, and so the only reason that you'd use that word is to be mean. And if we think about this idea of our society wanting us to be colorblind, to minimize the importance of race, to not see it, not talk about it, it makes sense in that context, but it's just like a bubble that I'm not in. And so it was fascinating to hear how that ideology was manifesting itself. The kids in the more diverse school, they had more of an understanding of race and racism. It's not like they didn't have some messed up ideas about it, but they at least knew that it was happening in our society. They had friends, some of them had friends who would share their experiences, and they understood that it wasn't just about like individual acts. They understood that it was also about structural things. And one example some of the kids in the diverse school gave was how teachers would pick on kids of color. Like, they would notice that other kids would do the same thing, but the kid of color would get in trouble or get a detention. And so their awareness and willingness to like question what was happening, it was more common. They were doing it more often. For example, the kids in the more diverse school asked questions like, I wonder why there aren't as many kids of color in the advanced classes. And they were able to put two and two together and say, well, if I'm seeing that teachers are targeting them, or if kids feel targeted, maybe they're getting tracked. Maybe they're either feeling like they shouldn't be in those classes, or maybe they're being blocked from being in those classes. And so they were willing to entertain other ideas about like why there weren't as many kids of color in the advanced classes as the other classes. Kids at the predominantly white school, they didn't wonder why kids of color weren't in the advanced classes. They just assumed it was because they couldn't cut it, because they had a very individual mindset, right? So they just assumed that they weren't taking school seriously, that their parents hadn't taught them well and hadn't taught them to take school seriously. So that's why they weren't in the advanced classes. So both groups of kids still led pretty isolated lives because their extracurricular activities were predominantly white, and their parents, their families' social circles were also predominantly white. So what was interesting about the study and the book was that it got me thinking about how oftentimes, and I've seen this in research that I've done with white parents at integrated schools, they assume that like the work is being done because they've chosen to live in a certain place and send their kid to this integrated school. And it's almost this feeling like, whew, I'm off the hook. The school's gonna do this work. But the school can't compensate for all the complexities that come with making sense of race and racism in our society, right? So many of the white kids who went to the integrated school were having contact with Black and brown kids who were disproportionately lower class or of lower wealth. And so they were getting a very narrow representation of what it means to be a kid of color in the United States. And it's important that families think about what are the messages? Like, how are kids getting exposed to people who are different from them? You know, what does it perpetuate? And those sorts of conversations, like the complexity of like, what do you think about going to this school? How do you make sense of what you see on the media and the friends that you have? Like, those are the conversations that I work to support parents in my workshops. I have one that's about talking to kids about race, racism, and equity. And I want to support parents in not just plopping their kids in integrated spaces and feeling proud of themselves, but like having the real conversations about what does that mean? How do we make meaning of it? What does that mean about you and your positionality and your location? And of course, we don't always use those big words with kids, but to engage them in those conversations because it's important. And one of the things that I think Hagerman does a really good job of in this book is reminding us that kids aren't like empty vessels that we just pour things into. Like, they are also a part of the socialization process. They sometimes push back. They're talking to each other as kids, as siblings. And so we also have to remember that piece, that as adults, we need to be talking to our kids because they're not only listening to us, they're listening to other people and other influences in the world. Reading this book made me feel validated in the idea of raising equity, that it's an important endeavor, and that white parents in particular and white kids have lingering questions and are not always sure about how to make sense of our current racial climate, or that some are so certain that it doesn't mean anything, and to even mention race or racism is an issue. So I had a hunch that was happening. Some of my research suggests as much, but it was refreshing in a sense, validating, and sometimes enraging to see it all in one place. And then as like a parent, as a person who lives in a very hyper-segregated city with hyper-segregated schools, it gave me a lot of food for thought, right? And so I think what all of us can take from this book is that we all need to be raising equity. So this is focused on white kids and white families, but we all need to be thinking about how we intentionally raise kids to understand the systems that are happening around them. And so I'll end this with a quote actually from this book that's, I feel like sums up what the book talks about, or the findings of the book. So, white parents can and do play a role in subverting white supremacy. White families can be a space for this radical work, and white parents who set up their children's lives such that their kids are equipped with both the language to directly name racial injustice and the experience to actively resist it can play a powerful role in making our society more equal. I think as adults in the lives of kids, we all can play a role in raising equity so that our kids can understand, analyze, and ultimately transform systems to create a more equitable society. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on What I'm Reading.